Van is obviously a great coach.
Got to do it with supreme focus, right? With razor sharp focus. Breathe what he's breathing.
But he's a better person.
Biggest thing you gave me was time. You didn't really know me. We were from the same neighborhood and area, but I was with a group of guys that wanted to go to college, wanted to play ball, and you actually gave us that reality that, hey, this could actually happen because we saw somebody that was like us and that we wanted to become.
Only thing that matters is you come out here, play after play after play after play, and that's the play we do. That's what matters.
Recruiting is about relationships. It's built on trust. It's built on doing the right things, and it's built on your head coaches and your athletic director, their vision. And I think we have two great leaders, both of those positions. So it makes it easy for me to go out and do what I do.
Be aggressive. Let's win. Here we go.
Once again, I'm excited to have another leader in the world of sports on Leaders Lead with Van Malone. Coaches and administrators across the country on all levels in many different sports have enjoyed the great insight that we continue to share on this podcast. It's really been a remarkable experience for me personally. We've had athletic directors, we've had head coaches, we've even had a Super Bowl champion coach grace our podcast. But today, we're going to have the president of a university. Our next guest, Soraya Coley, has had a terrific career as an administrator, and I don't even want to jump into the things she's done in her intro because I want to get to them as we talk, right? But she's an amazing leader and a fantastic role model for anyone in administration. It's so funny when we think about sometimes the places we find ourselves in. You know, for example, in my wildest dreams as a student athlete, I never would have thought that I would be a coach at some of the places that I've coached, like the University of Tulsa or Mississippi State or Kansas State for that matter.
Fine.
But your path is unique, and I can't wait really for us to get into it. Talk to us about your journey from being a student at Lincoln University to becoming the first woman and first African-American president at Cal State Pomona.
Well, let me just say that as I think for so many of us, we have to go back to our roots. And I grew up in the very segregated North Carolina. And my stepfather, my father had passed. My stepfather was a Southern Baptist minister and president of the NAACP. And it instilled within me, first of all, the teachers, the principal, the community said you can and you will. And they did not pretend that there weren't going to be obstacles, and there were certainly the obstacles in growing up in terms of, and very a big sense of place. This you can do, you can drink from this fountain, you can't drink from that fountain. You can go here, you can't go there. But there was a bigger sense of, even with this, you work to address, to push against, but you keep moving forward. And with that, you bring others with you. And so that's kind of the foundation that I had. And so I went to Lincoln. And I went to Lincoln during a very special time. It was during the civil rights era. We would have a lot of the leaders in civil rights to come to the campus. Right. And I remember one of my first assignments in my social research class, which was find articles in kind of pre-60 prestigious sociology journals that described Black Americans. And I found an article that was justifying the inferiority of Blacks because there were no Black Olympic swimmers. And they were associating that with the size of the brain. Now, what I so appreciated about this faculty member, Dr. Carter, was she said, let's take the finding. And so every classmate had this a separate article, but she said, let's take the finding and now generate other hypotheses. So the finding was there were no Black Olympic swimmers. And all I had to do was to go back into my own childhood, my own youth. There were no swimming pools in the Black community. There was no access to pools in the parks. And if you wanted to swim, you had to go to the river or the creek. And my mother wasn't allowing me to do either.
Either one, right.
So what that instilled within me is that we had to have individuals in critical roles to be able to reframe the question as well as the conclusion. And so from there, I went to Bryn Mawr, ultimately got my doctorate in social policy planning, and then came to the California State University system, where I started at Cal State Fullerton as a faculty member. I was there for 20 years. And it was there on that campus that I had some wonderful mentors. In fact, the president at the time was an African-American woman, Jewel Plummer Cobb. She's now deceased. And I was very active. There were very few of us, African-American faculty, but I was very active always. Wherever I am, I create a sense of community. And it was there through my service, through my engagement. She said, you know, one day you're going to be a college president. And I said, absolutely not. I am never going to do that. And it was this sense that, and I say to people and the people that I mentor, that many times you can't fly ahead and see your trajectory. But there are other people who will see things in you and create that little spark. And so each time I've been so fortunate to have both mentors as well as sponsors, as well as informants who have guided me, because many times what I think we hold ourselves back, because at the time that she said that, I couldn't see over that ridge.
Right.
And yet it planted a seed. And so that's how I ended up being a dean at Cal State Fullerton, then a provost at Bakersfield, and now as a president. And one of my regrets is that Dr. Cobb died before I could say, you know, Dr. Cobb, you were right, and I am a president. And so it's and I think that's what we have the obligation to do in leadership roles, is to help others, as I said, put a mirror up to others and have them see in themselves what they may not see at this point.
Yeah, I think that last point is one that I was thinking as you were speaking, is that as a coach, I continually find myself in the place where I have to see things and I have to speak things into existence, into my players' lives, things that they will never admit that they don't see, but I know they don't see them because they're not working in that way.
Right. Well, a lot of times what I found, and I think this was the case with me as well, that when she said that, and I see Dr. Cobb and all that she represents, the achievements, the challenges that she's overcome, the pinnacle of her success. And so I'm now taking this young Soraya and looking at this older individual, and I'm saying there's no way. But what we have to recognize is that there is a journey, and what she was doing is just saying, when you come to that fork in the road, don't automatically shy away from turning towards that path, because you may think, I can't.
Right.
Take that path and just keep building the skills, the expertise, the knowledge, because you will get there. And I think that's what, you know, in your role as coach, what I do even today as president with many of my students, what I do even with, as I talk with faculty and also staff about their trajectory. That's I think an important element of this of supporting others.
And you spoke to you know your relationship with students and the impact, and so I just made me think about my impact. And you know, I've learned over the years, and we've actually heard this recently, over the years how my words and my actions, how they do matter, how everyone is watching. So in your role, you have the ability to reach thousands of people on a daily basis. How do you use your position to create the best impact, or create impact in the best way possible?
Well, I think that for me, you have to be consistent, because what you're trying to do is to engender this sense that we're on this path together. Yes, I'm in this role, but this is a path that is only attainable if we move together. And so there has to be a certain sense of, there has to be integrity, there has to be consistency, there has to be, I think, communication. It is, and I think that you have to understand the impact that what is happening is having on your people. And so for me, and one of the things I miss as a result of, you know, the pandemic, I'm one of those kind of walking around presidents, and I have this little electric car, they call it the Bronco One, and so I can scoot around campus, and I will just stop and meet some students. And students know they better not have another campus's sweatshirt on, because I keep sweatshirts in the back of my little car. Yeah. And I will then let them know, you're a Bronco, you're a Cal Poly Pomona Bronco. So what size sweatshirt do you need? Because it is about creating that community. You have to also, even when there's tough information to deliver, you've got to be trustworthy. And you've got to recognize that not everybody's going to agree, but you've got to be open to listening. And it is, I think, the consistency. People will more apt, while you want, in many ways, and what I say to my cabinet members, 9 times out of 10, when they come into my office about some issue or tough decision, they pretty much know how I'm going to fall out. There aren't going to be many surprises. And so there's some level of predictability fosters greater sense of willingness to open up and trust.
Right.
And I think that that's been important.
You so many of the things you just said, and this is another amazing thing that happens on this podcast for me, is so many of the things that you said, we've heard them from leaders, and I've had the opportunity to experience them as in my role as assistant head coach here. When I was the cornerbacks coach, and I didn't have this expanded role, I only saw tunnel vision. I only saw what I saw. I only saw the things that directly affected my position, my little corner of the world.
Right.
Then when you are in this expanded role, you have a responsibility, you said it a minute ago, for consistency, for communication, for predictability. And so I've had the experience where people in our support team have said, wait a minute now, you said this, and now you're saying that.
Mm-hmm.
And some little change where you thought it was not a big deal, it was monumental in their lives. You know?
Right. And the important thing is that they can remind you, because it's one thing, because things will have changed.
Right.
And so the circumstances, and so when that's brought up, I think it's important to say, yeah, you know, under that circumstance before the pandemic, yes, I said that. But now with the pandemic, let me just tell you how this has changed
Right.
the perspective. And so I think that it is, I think that that's an important part of leadership, because people need to be comfortable in being able to speak honestly,
Right.
and to be able to understand that, you know, in my role, I think one of the biggest among the many challenges and is that you have to think strategically. I have to be thinking 3 years, 5 years down the road. And a lot of times people, you know, the cabinet and so forth, they're having to think operationally. They have to think right now and what has to occur in 6 months.
Right.
And sometimes that's where the challenge comes, because we've got to balance both. We can't, it's like flying a plane. Well, where we're going to land? Well, we can't be up in the air trying to figure out where we're going to land. We
Right.
need to know where's the destination, and we may have to make detours, but we've got to have a common sense of purpose. And that has to also constantly be communicated within the organization.
A lot to unwrap right there. So you've spoken on it a couple times, and the pandemic, and then you talked about 5 years down the line. Yes, I can't wait until we are 5 years from this moment. But 2020, and then the challenges that 2020 brought us in terms of social justice and social injustice initiatives, COVID and the protocols that have come along with that. And now here we are into 2021, still suffering from the remnants of 2020. What would you say that this moment has taught you about leadership?
You know, and that's a wonderful question. And it's, I've been doing a lot of reflection on that. And I think first it's taught me that, you know, I have 28,000 students, a couple of thousand faculty and staff. I have to care about their well-being. I have to, and not all of them are experiencing it in the same way. And so I think what it has taught me, and you cannot, if you don't have respect, you can't create it under these conditions. It's like, what's the relationship going into the crisis?
Yes.
And so I have not taken that for granted. And I have tried to be there for individuals. And I think people just need to know that you care.
Yes.
They need to know that, and so the communication has been, we've tried to have as constant communication as possible. There's no cookie cutter approach to the work. You have students who we learned just did not have access to laptops, to Wi-Fi. So we had donors, we had ways of getting about 600-700 laptops to students, so there could be some support of them continuing on their path, their dream. I think we've also had to take this opportunity to reinforce our commitment to diversity, to equity, to the values that are embedded in our university's statements, to mourn those who have felt society's disregard, hatred, being able to connect around those experiences, and letting them know that we're not perfect, but we are moving continually in the direction of your sense of belonging, your sense of being a part of the fabric of this university. I've had to, I've issued a number of campus-wide messages after the George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, just recently with the Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders and Asian community, recognizing also the recent mass killings, even though it may not have direct impact,
Right.
it has a subliminal impact. And I think that it's important for them to hear that this person in this role is cognizant of how you might be responding and is letting you know that we share in that sense of outrage. We share in that recognition of injustice, and we are propelled to do more and be better.
Yeah, I was watching. I can't remember what news show I was watching, but that was the sentiment, is that, where we are in America is great because of Americans.
Right.
And we are together. The founders talked about a more perfect union, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when we say more perfect union, that says we're still working, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're continuing to, yesterday we were pretty good, but we're trying to form a more perfect union, right?
Right.
So we still have work to do. And as great as we would say America is, we still have work to do. We still have work to do as a people. And I think it's so important what you said, that the leader has to be willing to stick out an arm, stick out a hand to those who are suffering. But then it also teaches those who may have different ideals,
That's
right?
right.
Those who may not feel compassion, right? It's the leader's responsibility to say, wait a minute now, this is the way we do it.
Yeah.
Right. So you're teaching at the same time that you are, helping others.
Yeah, and I think it's important that this is a community for all. And I think that it's important that that we give that there is voice, and we're going to have differing opinions.
Right.
But what I want is to find those intersections that's based on shared respect and shared recognition. I know what it is to be disrespected just because of the way I look. I know what it is to be denied just because of the way I look. And so I know that I stand on the shoulders of all of those, that my community that would say to me, honey, when I went away to college, I can remember many of the elderly folks in my father's church. They were so proud that I was going to college. And Miss Whitfield, she said, honey, I don't have a lot, but you take this $1 and you do something with it. Now, see, I cannot disregard that sacrifice, her giving me that dollar, what is the equivalent of her giving me $1 million.
Right.
Because I knew what Ms. Whitfield endured. And so I am very clear about the standing on the shoulders of all of those who have gone before me, and they took it just a little bit further.
Yes.
And taken it just a little bit further. And I think that's what, you know, we would love for this to just change overnight. And there are those of us that we're going to stay hopeful. But in the meantime, we're going to take it till we can't take it anymore. And we're going to hand it off. And I'm so proud of this younger generation, because they are clear, they're decisive, they are providing a platform in so many different sectors now.
Right.
That I think is so important.
Yeah, they do a great younger generation.
Mm-hmm.
They do a great job of using their, especially student athletes, of using the platform that they
Mm-hmm.
have to express. In my generation, I will have to say we didn't do a great job of that as a whole. But
Mm-hmm.
these young people, they have social media, they are connected all over the place, and I like you, I am proud of, you know, the ability for them to be able to express. So we talk about it, and you kind of alluded to it just a second ago, about, you know, those who came before you and those shoulders you stand on. I think that when I go through the leaders we've had on this podcast, they speak the same language. They live in the same houses, and that is, it's remarkable in one way, but it's also to me, very defining, because it says there's a lot of ways to do it, but really there's only one way to do it, right? Success is generally, it goes down this road. And so I would like to know from you, who has been the best leader that you've been around, and really, what did that person teach you?
Well, you know, as I reflect on that question, and he would probably say, "Oh, couldn't you find someone else?" But I would have to say my husband, Ron Coley. He is a retired Lieutenant Colonel, Marine Corps. We went together in high school. We both went our separate ways and got back together after about 10 years. And he entered the Marine Corps as an officer and also as a pilot. And what he dealt with, how the resilience, the determination, was just remarkable. And what I've learned from him is, again, the importance of courage, the importance of having that mindset of achieving the mission, and being able to have that inner, that sense of inner peace and being, while also a part of the struggle. And I think that what I learned and what I continue to share is that we have to care about the people for whom we have positional responsibility for. He had to care about the folks in the squadron that he had, even though some of those individuals grew up in environments where they would see him and not feel like, well, how are you in charge of me?
Of me, right.
But he had, you know, as he would share oftentimes, he had some incredible circumstances where he had to do what was right. He had to act with integrity, even though there could have been a different outcome for him. And so that undergirding has been something I think that we've both, because we came from the same community, we understood that it wasn't, you know, in many ways, and this is why I'm so invested in our students, because it wasn't that my husband and I were smarter than other students that we grew up with. It's that we had access and we had opportunity. And so I can't afford not to squander that, and
Right.
to try to open access and opportunity for others to come through. So we're both very, you know, very committed. When people ask us, you know, and ask me, well, do you have children? I said, yes, I have 28,000. Because it is, I want to be able, and with children, you know, you need different things for different. And so I am so proud of these students, and when I know their circumstances, and they come to us with a tentativeness. I don't know if I should be here. I don't know if I can. And so I do everything I can to wipe that out from day one and have it reinforced. And so it's I could not feel like I was in a better role than I've been, you know, in education.
Well, I tell you what, I can't wait to come. I told you that I'm gonna come and
That's
visit.
right. You're coming to
I'm gonna come and visit.
California.
I'm telling you. And
That's right.
I
That's
want to
right.
see Bronco 1 rolling.
Yes, yes, yes. And I'm so pleased with what you're trying to do, and also with athletics and the impact that it has, it both impact and access for our community. And I could not be, I mean, when I think about what some of our athletes are doing in terms of speaking truth to power,
Yes.
I think that, you know, and we've had that all along in various ways, but I think there's a momentum.
Yeah, it's
that
different.
we have now.
It's different. And I've heard that said several times, that this moment, it just feels different,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So we've talked about this before. When you are in preparation for hiring a staff member,
Mm-hmm.
how do you look to identify who or what characteristics do you look for in terms of determining who will be the best addition to your staff?
Well, you know, I unfortunately I didn't play team sports. My husband did. He was a basketball player, but many times, you know, I liken it to you're building a team.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of it is, how does this individual see themselves fitting into the team, and what are going to be the assets that they bring that move us towards our goals and sustains our values? So are they equity minded? How will we be better off? And this is one of the questions that I oftentimes will pose. How do you think, if you've studied our institution, and I expect that you should have studied our institution if you're applying for a position, how do you think your talents, your experiences, your skill, your hopeful optimism. How do you think our institution will benefit and be better off because you're a part of it? Because it is not what I recognize, and I don't think I always understood this. It's not that people don't have expertise and talent and intellect and all of that. It's about the fit.
Right.
It's about where you are in your own development and how you see the intersection. It's also their ability to tell me how we can help them grow. Because all of this should be about the institution being better off, but also what are the areas that you feel you need to grow? Because then that's part of my responsibility. That's part of the connection that I need to have with you, to understand, to coach, to inspire. And then I will ask, can you speak truth to power? Because it does not do this institution any good to have individuals on my team that can't push back on me.
Mm-hmm.
They can't say, well, you know, and they have to do it respectfully.
Right.
But to be able to say, you know, I think this, I understand what you're saying, but I really think you need to look at it from this perspective. I welcome that, because it means then that you understand the issue and you're seeing other dimensions that I may not have seen.
Right.
And so I look for that, and also being able to have a sense of the engagement. Do you have that sense that people that you will be able to foster the kind of leadership and development in those who report to you?
Right. Which I think is important.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm a coach,
Mm-hmm.
and this is my world. My world is the cheering, and my world is the fans on their feet. And the question I have for you is what is it in your world that gives you that cheering crowd? What is it that you do that makes the crowd cheer in your mind?
Well, I think unlike the coaching, and maybe it's just my personality, I don't necessarily look for the crowd cheering. I look for the cheering that we do on commencement day for my students. One of the things that I was so sad about last year with the pandemic is that we could not hold commencement. And so this year I've said, we're holding commencement. Now we're going to be, and I'm just so proud of the staff, and everyone's really working overtime to create an experience for our students. But we're inviting the class of 2020 from last year and their families to come this year.
Right.
We're doing it in a county fair of 500 cars at a time. And I've said to the staff, I don't care what else, they will not care what I say. They will not miss shaking my hand. But you better set up that stage so that they can come down that center ramp
Right.
because their mamas have got to take their picture. We have got to create this experience for the family to engage. So it's going to be one family per car. The graduates will come from both sides, and we'll have everything, set up, distancing. But they've got to come down. They've got to walk that plank of, I made it.
Right.
I've done it. And so that's the cheering for me.
Yes.
And, we're going to have to do it over 4 days from 8 in the morning till 9:30 at night. But it's when those students go across that stage, I know some of the struggles that they've had. I know some of these students who, a student is, we try to periodically, touch base with students, and, the student was sharing because we had to have them return home and we're doing virtual. And the student shared that the only place for him to study is in the bathroom because, he has 5 siblings, and it's a small space. But he's doing it.
Right.
And so, and when I think about the faculty and the staff, because what's happened is, there's no demarcation of the work role and the family role. It's all intertwined.
It's together, right.
So when I'm, on a call with a faculty member, and their little 3-year-old could be running in.
Right. I want
And
some Pop-Tarts.
You just talk to the 3-year-old and say hello, and then you try to get back to the conversation as appropriate. So it is all of that has that's the cheering for me. So I'm the cheerleader. I'm the one that has to, and I couldn't be more proud of a campus community that has been, that really has worked to have consistency, though it's a different experience, has worked to have a consistency in an experience. And they have done it. I look at, we have a beautiful campus, 800 acres, and the folks who maintain this campus, they're out here. And I know that some of them, family members have contracted COVID. They've lost family members. And so I cannot not cheer them on. So I'm the cheerleader.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. So this is my final question. What is one thing that you would tell younger President Coley that you wished you knew at that time? Now you're 27 now, so I'm talking about.
Oh, bless you. You're talking about when I was 7, right?
I'm talking about the 16-year-old.
I think I would tell her, just continue doing what you're doing. Do what you think is most important. Don't allow the barriers, the obstacles to determine or define your path or your outcome. Care about the well-being of others. And always strive to be your authentic self, who you are, so that there isn't there isn't a surprise. And then to have the courage to do the right thing. There's so many instances where it really takes courage, but to make hard decisions. It takes courage to do what you think is right for the right reason. And and I try to live by that. I would probably say to my younger self, or if I could, spend little bit more self-care time. I have something that there were two things. When I first went into administration, I said, I need a beacon statement. I need something that's gonna guide me. And I can remember that I was jogging one day and it came to me. I had just been appointed dean of one of the colleges at Cal State Fullerton, and it came to me, and it is to remain student-centered, faculty and staff focused, and community-minded. And it captured for me when I'm at that point of some hard decisions, doing the right thing. And as I've gotten older, I've recognized that I probably should have done better in self-care. And so I have a personal kind of beacon statement, and it's called HREDS. It's HREDS. H for husband, R for rest, E for exercise, D for diet, and S for spirituality. And so daily, I look at that on my calendar. HREDS, what did you do today to reflect that? And sometimes, since I'm away from home, while I'm at home, not in the office, and I see the HREDS, and my husband gets up much earlier, and so I have to go and say, I got to do HREDS, and I'll hug him. And, and the rest, the exercise, the diet, and the spirituality daily. I think that's my younger self, it was about burning the candle at both ends, and it was about, so my younger self couldn't have appreciated that.
Right.
But this old body is definitely into it.
Right. Well, I'm going to tell you something, young lady. I can't express to you how happy I am that I went to the NCAA's website one day and I said, I want to know who's on this minority interest committee, and I'm going to contact somebody. I'm going to contact this lady. And each time I've had the opportunity to listen to you, because I can't talk much, I just want to listen. It's been an experience that is I can't even put it into words. And I know people, they say things all the time that they're just talking. But I do talk quite a bit, but I sincerely mean it. Now, one, I'm coming to California.
All right, you've got an open invitation, and we don't have a football team.
Well, you know what?
We do have a basketball team, so you're going to have to come when we're in play. Now, we're Division II, and you have to come so there's over a weekend, because normally on Friday nights, my husband and I, as part of my relaxation, we go to the women and men's basketball game. And so that's basically our Friday nights. And then if there's Saturday mornings, if there's the track or soccer or whatever, I try to, be there for various activities with the athletes. And so you'll have to come. And then during the baseball season, I have to just recognize how grateful I am that they endure. They always want me to throw out the first ball. And my husband said, now you can't be embarrassing me. So he takes me in the backyard and he has
right. So you practice it. Yeah. Okay.
But it doesn't carry forth when I'm on the mound.
Yeah.
And so, and so the catcher says, well, should I come closer? No, you don't need to come closer. I'm going to throw it to you. Well, I never do.
Yeah.
So, but come during some of those times,
yes,
and we'll certainly hang out there.
Yes, we will. We will. Well, I appreciate your time. And again, it has been wonderful to visit with you. And I'm sure this podcast will be the best one yet. And it'll be the best one for me. I've been looking forward to it because I knew that I would learn more and more And again, I appreciate your time.
Well,
And
I
look
want to
forward.
also commend you on doing this, because I know when we talked before, you were very clear about how to foster and promote greater access and leadership. How do you begin to make clear the those paths that appear
Right.
to be closed, and how do we open them? And so I commend you on your calling to help promote others. And you're compelled to try to help others, and so I commend you for that.
Well, I do appreciate that. It has been, even with this podcast, because I didn't think it would. I didn't think it would enrich me the way it has, and in terms of helping others, I think just like you've spoken, you do it every day. When we have the opportunity to lead people, when we have, I always tell my players, here's what it is. Here's where I've been placed on this earth. Here's what
Right.
my job is you are in a room and I can only talk to you. I can't come in and grab your hand and lead you to the $20. I can only direct you through a microphone.
Right.
And so I'm saying, no, go left, go right, no, back up. And you're doing what you want to do. And
Right.
here I am, I just keep yelling. I keep, okay, I can't startle you. Let me be calm.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And so that is, I think, what certain people are put on this earth to do. They're just here to help people. And when you pick up the $20 bill, I disappear.
Mm-hmm.
I disappear. I go to somebody else. I go to a new room. And for me, that has been fulfilling. When I get a call from a young man who was all twisted around,
Right.
who couldn't find his way for anything, when I get a call and he says, "Hey, coach, I got married and I got a kid." What? That's the first response. But then, when I say, and it was connected to that question that I had to you about, the cheering. But, sometimes as a coach, you see that light bulb go off.
That's right.
You see it and you can give up. There's so many young student athletes that you just want to give up on them. Your exterior wants to give up,
Right.
but your heart and your soul won't allow
Right.
you.
That's
And
right.
so you stay in it with that person. You stay in it, and then all of a sudden you see the light bulb go off.
That's right.
You go back to that time when, man, I almost let him go.
Yeah.
I almost gave up on him.
That's right.
Like so many maybe had done before.
That's right. That's right.
And that's not just for student athletes. This is for coaches, having an opportunity to deal with coaches, some coaches who are older than I am,
Right.
And giving them hope and continuing, like you talked about earlier, continuing to push them forward, right? When they've totally lost hope for,
Right.
what they can achieve.
Yeah, and I think that is so important. Of how do we help others be their best selves?
Right.
And that
Right.
is, I know I just didn't show up. I know it was a whole bunch of prayers, a whole bunch of discipline, a whole bunch of
Right.
loving, a whole bunch of
Right.
hard knocks, and then, but fortunately, I started, I came to a place to say, oh, that's what they meant.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I'm grown.
Right.
But, there's a point at which, and it's those prayers that,
Right.
that others had for me that I know has saved me.
Right. Right. Well, I appreciate you.
Yeah.
And I look forward to my time in California.
Okay. Okay. And bring some of that sauce when you come.
Don't worry. Listen, I'm gonna bring some of that as well. Right.
Yeah.
I'm glad you liked it.